Ignore the anxiety of the polls. We have actual votes that are coming in and enough data to tell you a little bit about the trends in some of the key states we're following. And there's some pleasant surprises here. Hi, everyone. I'm Shauna Presley Vircher, the political fixer. We're already starting to see mail ballots and absentee ballots being returned in a number of states. And on top of that, some of our swing states we're keeping a close eye on have started opening up the early in-person voting. So we have enough data right now on votes that have already been cast. So I'm going to show you a few trends that are out there in the field, as well as an inside look on how you can keep up with things over the next several days. All right, here's a quick tip as we get started. When you're looking at any of these numbers across the country, make sure you're not too concerned about the early voting totals in 2024 compared to 2020. Why? Because in 2020, we were at the height of the pandemic. So all of us were looking for ways to vote early or vote by mail so that we couldn't come into contact with other humans. So when you're looking at these, don't focus so much on the totals of 24 over 20. Focus more on the percentages of people who requested ballots and are turning them in, as well as the percentage of Democrats who are returning them compared to Republicans. Let's start with Pennsylvania. There was a concern that possibly Pennsylvania would not hold blue for Kamala Harris. One of the reasons is there's been some chatter about a lack of enthusiasm, supposedly, among Black voters, particularly in Philadelphia. And also, there was a concern that the Democratic enthusiasm overall in Pennsylvania might be tampered just a bit because she didn't select their governor as her running mate for vice presidential nominee. Pennsylvania numbers are already looking strong. Out of everyone who requested a mail ballot early, so far 46% of them have already been returned. And on top of that, 49% of the Democrats who requested a ballot have already returned their Democratic ballot, presumptively for Kamala Harris. But is that lead enough? We know that Republican voters are more likely to vote on Election Day. So, what Democrats want to do is create a sort of a stockpile of early and mail in votes to kind of offset what we're expecting on Election Day. That's known as a firewall. Now, most experts agree that in Pennsylvania, we need a Democratic firewall of around 400,000 votes to feel comfortable on Election Day. As of now, weeks out, Pennsylvania has already assembled a firewall of 295,000 votes. That's nearly 300,000 more Democrats who have cast their ballots compared to Republicans. And we've still got weeks to go. So if this trend continues, they're going to blow past the additional 100,000 votes that they need compared to Republicans, and Pennsylvania will go firmly in the Kamala Harris column. But there's more. When looking at these votes, there was something else that impressed me. Early on, to be honest, I was a little bit concerned with what I was seeing with the Pennsylvania Philadelphia returns in particular. In fact, I wasn't the only one. I got a number of calls and emails and texts of people on the ground worried about what we were seeing in Philadelphia. Well, then something happened. The Kamala Harris campaign quietly allocated a larger ad budget to the Philadelphia market, and it worked. Not only have more than half of the requested ballots already been returned in Philadelphia County, but over 85% of them are from Democratic voters. So this tells me that not only is she running a strong campaign plan, but they're adapting that campaign plan on the fly as they get feedback on the ground. And that is extremely impressive and will impact the entire race across the country. In some states, we don't know if the ballots are returned by Democrats or Republicans. They don't report it that way. So, for example, we know that Georgia has a really high turnout right now. Over 900,000 people have already cast their ballots, but we don't know for who. However, there's a way that we can take a closer look into that data and get a little bit of a peek of how things are going. Remember that infamous and probably illegal phone call of, I just need to find 11,000 votes? That's how close Georgia was in 2020. Just over 11,000 votes separated President Biden, who won the state, from his opponent. So now let's look again at those 900,000 ballots that have already been cast in Georgia. Out of those, over 120,000 voters are first time voters. They've never voted before in any presidential election, and that tends to bode well for Kamala Harris. In addition to that, half of them are under the age of 30. So you're talking more than 60,000 first time young voters. That alone could make all of the difference. We've also learned that one of the assumptions that we've been making when looking at this data could be completely false. We're under the assumption that Democrats are mostly going to vote for Democrats and Republicans are mostly going to vote for Republicans 92% of the time. But what if this is one of the few elections in our history where that doesn't happen? I want to introduce you to Nick, who seems to be a nice, normal, middle aged Republican male. Nick tweeted out that he was debating writing in DeSantis's name, but he cast his vote for Kamala Harris, largely because of the Fox News interview. He said that she was gangster against Brett Baier. What the Florida man is going on here? So you're telling me that a Florida Fox News watching, DeSantis voting Republican white male cast his vote all the way over to the Kamala Harris column? If her opponent cannot hold on to his core base of voters, and to be clear, this is one of many stories that we've seen, especially since her Fox News interview and since her opponent tanked his Univision town hall. If he cannot hold on to his core base of voters, if she peels off even 2 or 3% of that, this is about to get really interesting. There's a lot more to cover and more happening every single day. Please follow me at Political Fixer, and I'll continue to bring you insights and intel into this historic election. As the expression goes, right now, I would much rather be us than them. So let's lose the worry and focus on the work. We can do this together. Please like and share this content if you find it informative or if it just helps you get through these next few crazy weeks. On behalf of myself and my team, I'm Shauna Presley Vircher, and I'll see you soon.